everybody, welcome to my video story on parking at Monmouth. This is my first segment. Today I'm going to be focusing on the fact that there are too many 30-minute spots in the parking lot. I've gotten this complaint from a number of students, just hearing about it through classes and just walking around. People are saying there's way too many 30-minute spots, they should just be regular spots so that we can get to class instead of someone just running in. And apparently students abuse them and just use them anyway, even if they're there for a long period of time. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And now I'd like to bring in our first guest, Shannon Oswald. Hey everyone, I'd like to introduce our first guest for this segment, Shannon Oswald. She's a junior. Thank you so much for coming and joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Shannon, what is your opinion on the idea that there aren't enough spots at Monmouth for everyone?
Well, there definitely aren't enough parking spots. You basically have to wait until classes switch in order to get any type of parking spot, not even a close one, just any type of parking spot. So I think that Monmouth should really focus more of their attention on this problem. They keep building new football stadiums and new buildings, like that new science building, and instead we have a huge problem with parking.
I totally agree. Have you ever been affected directly because of parking in any way?
Well, I have a 6 to 9 on Mondays, so usually I can't get a close enough spot, so I end up parking in the middle of nowhere. And honestly, for a girl walking alone at night, it's kind of scary because by the time 9 o'clock comes around, it's pitch black out and you can't really see anything.
No one's really out.
Yeah,
too,
exactly.
So it's really scary.
And you are forced to park so far away that it can be dangerous.
And I feel the other problem with it is that there aren't enough lights in the parking lot either.
Definitely
so it's not lit up enough, and you really don't have any idea. They don't even I feel I don't even know if they have signs or not so you can remember where you park.
No, I don't even and at that point it's so dark you probably wouldn't be able to see them anyway. So I think it's also a safety concern.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us today, Shannon. We really appreciate your input.
Thanks for having me.
According to an article written by Jacqueline Caffetti in the Monmouth University student newspaper, The Outlook, this article is from 2012. She estimated that there are about 1,554 non-residential parking spots and that there are 4,000 non-residential students attending the university. Since then, this number has obviously grown, and I will give Monmouth the fact that they did add that smaller parking lot in the back by Bay Hall, but it doesn't.
Okay, everyone, I'd like to introduce our guest, Brielle Cuff. She's a junior psychology major. Thank you so much for joining us today, Brielle.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Brielle, where do you find that there is a lack of parking on campus? Is there anywhere specific?
Well, this past year, I haven't had too many problems parking because, we live off campus now, but I remember, on campus, near, the dorms and stuff, it was always really hard parking. Everybody always wanted, the best spots, up in the front because, when you're moving in and, coming back from a holiday and stuff, you have laundry, you have groceries, all that stuff. So, always having to park, all the way in the back and having to lug everything was always, a really big struggle. So I feel there should be, more parking, closer to the dorms. And also, the library has no parking at all. So, I feel less students are going to the library because they can't park anywhere. And, no one's going to want to walk, a mile to get to the library just to do their homework.
I went through that too. I don't go to the library anymore because there is no parking over there ever. And their lots are if you are going to park there, they're far away. And I'm a girl, I don't want to walk there in the dark on my own. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Brielle.
Thanks for having me.
According to a recent article from Mandatory.com by David Vills, he reports that the students at the University of Utah had to pay up to $600 for their parking permits. Us students here at Monmouth are lucky enough to not have to pay for our parking permits, but I do bring up the idea that other schools use, which is bid parking. Students would be able to bid on a prime spot, and that would be their spot for the rest of the year. To talk more about that idea, I have a commuter student, Cass Smith, here.
I'd like to introduce our last guest, Cass Smith.
Hello.
She is a junior education English major. Thank you so much for coming.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Now, Cass, I was just talking about how at some schools they do bid parking, and what would happen is you would bid on a prime, what would be called a prime spot near the student center or something, and you would pay to always have that spot. But the problem is they would double up the spots, so more than one person has that spot. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's something definitely worth looking into because I know I'm on campus all the time because of the amount of classes I take. And living only a few minutes away from campus is great until you have to leave 25 minutes early in order to get to class on time because you're struggling for parking. And I feel like it's a constant battle for spots. There's always honking and blinker wars.
Very competitive.
It's very competitive out there, believe it or not. And I think that if students paid for parking, it would give them an incentive to not battle over spots, and you won't have to leave as early so you can use your time better. So I think it's something the school should definitely look into if students are interested.
I totally agree. Thank you so much for coming,
Of
Cass. We
course.
appreciate it.
Well, everyone, that is all the time we have for today. Just to recap, there's too many 30-minute spots, but the idea of bid parking could be a thing that Monmouth could think of. Maybe instead of the 30-minute spots, they replace them with a parking space that a student decides to pay for. That's all the time we have, so thank you for tuning in.